What is up, my Division 2 peeps, and welcome to the Build Junkies channel. Today, we're going to talk about tips, tricks, and suggestions for new players that just got their Shade Watch at level 40. Starting off with the most important thing in the game, in my opinion, that is the Recalibration Station and Library. Now, the goal of this little treasure, once you get to the end game, is for you to pick up gear that has God rolls or completely full rolls on attributes and core attributes. And you're going to take those pieces that you don't need yet have those rolls, and you're going to break them down and stick them in your library. Now, as well as attributes and core attributes on both weapons and gear, you also will be able to put talents in that library for any of your weapons and your chest piece and backpack. So the point of all this is so that when you start to put builds together and you need to switch some stuff around on one of those pieces, that you have that stuff in your library. Now, once it's in your library, it's there forever. You can use it over and over again. So, and if you don't have a God roll, but you put a pretty good one in there, as long as the next one you find that you want to put in there is better than the one you had, you can replace it. But once it is God rolled and in the library, it is there, and you no longer have to touch the library for that particular item. Now, what you will see here is an example of me trying to find something that I could rip off of a weapon or something and put in the library. Talents, like I said earlier, are also a important thing to have in your library as well. You will have the option to rip those off of pieces as well, and those are the easiest things to do because you can run through Countdown, pick up just nothing but assault rifles, and probably almost fill your talents in your library for assault rifles at one run of Countdown. It is the attributes that do take time to fill in on that particular aspect of the library and recalibration station. Core attributes are pretty set forward on set pieces. You're either going to have weapon damage, armor, or skill tier. That's going to be your core attributes on anything that isn't a weapon. So as long as you manage to get the three of those for each one of the, mask, backpack, knee pad, so on and so forth, those are usually pretty easy to find over time. And you can see here, I don't have everything maxed out in mine because there's some stuff I never use. Not to say that at some point I may use it, and I may have to go back and find me a nice one with a God roll on it to fix my library, but I haven't had to yet. So you will learn what ones that you do and don't use on a frequent basis, and you will get those filled quickly. Trust me. But the recalibration library and the recalibration station as a whole is probably the most important thing in the end game. And that is what you use to make your builds just top notch. So if you want those top notch builds and you don't want to grind for days and days and days trying to find the perfect piece, this is what you will use to do it. And remember that nothing that is perfect or a named piece with a perfect talent on it can be ripped off and put in the library. Only standard talents can do that. So up next is an example of a recaled piece. Now, like I said earlier, you can only recalibrate one thing on a piece. Once that one thing has been recalibrated, that is the only attribute or core attribute that can be recalibrated at any given time. You can't recalibrate more than one item on any piece, and you can't recalibrate anything on an exotic piece. Only yellow and blue can have recalibrations done to them. So you want to make sure that before you recalibrate a piece that you picked up, that you make sure that you're taking off or changing what you for sure want to change, because once it's changed, that's it. It's kind of the same thing too when you're ripping stuff. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've seen do it, including myself, where you pick up a nice piece and then you accidentally rip it to put something in the library, and you meant to keep that piece because you were going to use it for a build. So also make really, really sure before you rip something and put it in the library that you're not going to need that piece for the future, because once it's ripped, that piece is destroyed. I was just showing some examples here of not only talents but attributes that have been re-rolled on different pieces. But that, in a nutshell, is pretty much the recalibration station and library. So moving on to optimization. Now, optimization is fun. When you've recaled a piece on an attribute, yet the other attribute on there maybe not completely full, you can make that attribute full through optimization. And basically, in optimization, what you're doing is you're putting a heck of a lot of materials, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there, all the different things you have to donate to move that little bar just a little bit further up the line. And the crappy thing about it is the more you have to move that bar, the more components you have to donate. So every time it gets more and more and more. So the goal should always be to try to find stuff with attributes about as close to full as you can, because if you have to optimize them from half or below, you are going to use a lot of materials. So the other thing was you can optimize exotic weapons. Unlike yellow and below, you can only optimize one attribute or core attribute on an exotic. With yellows, you can optimize 2 and recalibrate 1, but with exotics, you can only optimize one thing. And once that one thing has been optimized, you can't change it back. That's the only thing you can optimize. So also be careful when you're doing your optimization that you're paying close attention to what you're doing and what you're optimizing, because you can always re-roll exotics, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the optimization is pretty straightforward. Moving on to the last one, this is the one that just came out this year, and that is the expertise system. And oh my God, don't get me started on this. But in order for you to increase the expertise on a weapon, you have to first make it proficient. And to make it proficient, you have to gain 10 levels of proficiency. As you can see here, the Dr. Home, which just recently came out about a week ago, I have not done the proficiency on it yet. And there's 2 ways you can do something proficient. You can either carry it on your person in a build and run through content with it, and it will slowly gain proficiency that way. Or as you can see me doing here, you can donate components in order to speed up that process a little bit. Now, you will donate a lot of components in order to get all of your stuff proficient, whether it be gear, weapons, skills. When I say gear, it could be either named gear or it could be gear sets. So there is a lot. I believe there's 351 things you have to make proficient for you to be completely maxed out now. Yeah, right there, 351. And you can see I'm 349 out of 351. But when you start raising the expertise on weapons, especially weapons, gear is kind of a waste, but weapons and skills, you can get a nice up to 21% bonus damage or skill efficiency or duration on different things as you raise their expertise. But the second downside of expertise is once you have something proficient, you can only raise that thing to the current level of expertise that you are. So as you can see there, I'm 21, but let's say you were expertise 13. Well, after expertise 10, you have to start donating exotic components in order to raise a level. And it starts off with going from 10 to 11 is 1, 11 to 12 is 2. So basically, to get all the way up to 20, you have to donate 55 exotic components. If I'm doing my math right, which I'm pretty sure I am. And that is a lot of exotic components. Oh my God. It takes so long to grind exotics. Now, they did have that nice little addition in the last week where we can farm the General Anderson mission. Hopefully they don't nerf that, but still, even then, you're only talking about 4 exotics an hour if you're really hauling serious ass. So it is a grind to get your pieces all the way maxed out on their expertise. And as you can see here, it's everything. It's gear sets, gear pieces, skills, weapons, everything. All of that is rolled into the expertise system. Now, the gear itself is kind of a crappy expertise because all they do is add armor to it. And unfortunately, If you had all 6 pieces you were wearing completely rolled up to 20 on expertise, you wouldn't even have one full extra armor bar. So you wouldn't even have 170,000 armor. You wouldn't even get that after having 6 pieces completely maxed out. So you're talking, 300 plus exotic components to get all the way up there and not even getting a full armor bar out of it. So in a nutshell, it's kind of a waste of time in order, doing the expertise on gear sets. But moving on to the recalibration, the crafting table. Some of those components that you need in order to raise the optimization or even the expertise can be crafted over here if you are low on them, and that is the faction materials. Now, the faction materials are what you get for beating those particular factions in the open world or missions, and they do come in low numbers, so if you need to up your number on that, you can donate an ungodly amount of materials in order to craft them, and every time you craft them, you get 10 depending on which one you do. So the other side is your Shade Watch. Now, if you're a new player, you're not going to have a very high Shade Watch number, but if you have some points in the watch that you can use towards it, you can build up your materials here as well in a pinch, although I wouldn't recommend it until you get some numbers that are pretty high on that Shade Watch. Speaking of the Shade Watch, as you get to level 40 and you start leveling back up from 1 all the way up to wherever you are, you're going to be sticking points in the 4 categories of red, blue, green, and yellow. My recommendation when you start this out is on the red, you should start out with crit chance. That would be the one you want to level up first. On blue, you would check out the total armor, and that would be the one there I would level up first. Green's kind of a hodgepodge. It's whatever you want. I would recommend your ammo capacity. That's what I started with. It's handy. You don't run out of ammo as quick. And then obviously on the yellow, which is highly important, you're going to be up in that skill damage. And that is definitely a focus. After the damage, I would go with haste, but it's a dealer's choice at that point. Back to the crafting table. The other thing that's good about the crafting table is mods. Mods for your weapons, whether it be scopes, magazines, underbarrels, muzzles, anything that goes on your weapons can be crafted here. Now, in order for you to pick up the blueprints for these particular things and be able to purchase them, you have to run open world control points on challenging or above difficulty. So the more control points you run in the open world, the more blueprints you pick up, and then the more items you will be able to craft for your weapons. Now, these items come in very handy when you're making your builds, because if you want to get your numbers where they want to be, i.e. crit chance, crit damage, headshot damage, whatever the case may be, these mods are what's going to help you get to that magic number that you're looking for. So make sure that you're out there running the open world when you can. Anaya here is also where you buy the blueprints for your exotic weapons when you pick them up. So if you want to re-roll your exotic weapons like we talked about earlier, you will need to first purchase the blueprint from Anaya after picking up that particular weapon. And then once you have exotic components from breaking down other exotics, whether it be weapons or gear, you will be able to use that exotic component plus the current exotic that you have in order to re-roll it and try to get better rolls. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a form of gambling. You could end up with worse rolls than the one that you tried to change. You could end up going through 20 exotic components before you even get a 1 or 2 categories God rolled. You never know what's going to happen. It is gambling. So take that with a grain of salt, however you look at it. Sometimes I've been lucky. Sometimes I've been very unlucky. I'm going to say that more often than not, I am very unlucky when it comes to re-rolling exotics. Have been somewhat lucky of picking up completely God rolled ones though. So I do have quite a few that are completely God rolled, and very few of them were ones that I had to re-roll because I'm not a gambler. But you can and do have that option once you've picked up an exotic. Now, next thing we're going to talk about here for a sec is the settings. Now, there's some settings that you may or may want to change, may or may not want to change to help your gameplay. The first one is you want to always make sure that show damage numbers is on. That way you can gauge how much damage you or your skills are doing. The next thing that you would want to make sure is on is show skills in group frame. That way you can see what skills your group members have and whether or not they are refreshing or out. And you also want to make sure that you have show numeric skill cooltime so that you can see how many seconds you have left. Now, these next two, additional field of vision and additional field of vision while aiming, my recommendation there is you put those all the way up to 25, because all it's going to do is give you a wider field of vision when you're aiming or hip firing, so that you can see more enemies easily. Under the UI, if you go down to scrolling combat text, you're going to want to change that to floating. It is an easier way to read your numbers so they're not just thrown in different spots and you're trying to read one over the other. On controls, you have your aim sensitivity and your camera sensitivity and your scoped modifier. Normally, I have these quite a bit farther up, but I was doing a test on a build, so they're down now. But my recommendation is this: is as you get used to the game, start slowly bumping those up, because as your reflex time improves, so does your ability to target enemies quicker, spin around quicker, which will help you greatly if you're a PvP player. The other thing that you may or may not want to do is turn off the auto aim. Some people love it, some people hate it. Most diehard PvP will tell you don't use auto aim. You can turn on in accessibility the in-game chat by pressing down on the D-pad. You pull up a keyboard, you can type in-game chat, and you can set that to where it comes up only when someone types something. And then the last thing is colorblind mode. You're going to want to set that to Deuteranopia. And what that does is it actually puts a grid on the ground. So when you throw a hive or a grenade or anything that's an area of effect, it will actually, instead of just giving you a colored circle, give you a full laid out white grid to show you exactly where that area of effect ends. It's very handy, especially in the raids. Progression. All right, commendations. As you proceed through the game, you're going to pick up commendations for doing different things. When you want to claim those commendations, this is where you go, and you can scroll through your commendations at any time and see what ones you have unlocked, what ones you haven't, and then the ones that you haven't, you can actually see what the goals are for you to unlock that particular commendation. So if you're an in-game hunter, you like to be 100% in the game and do absolutely everything, this is one of the things that you're going to want to look at after you get to the in-game content. Now, I can tell you some of the commendations in here, like running a raid with a hardcore character. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get all the commendations. Don't think I have the nerves for that one. But if you want to check them out, that is where you go to look at them. All right, moving on down the hallway here to the clan area. So I highly recommend that you get a clan. They're definitely going to help you if you're a new player. Well, at least they should. If they don't, feel free to stop in and check out our clan. We love to help new players. If you're an Xbox player and you're looking for someone that can teach you the game and run with you and chill people, by all means, stop in and drop us a line. But in the clan area, we have a clan set vendor. Once your clan reaches its top level, this clan vendor will have different items in the clan vendor every week for sale for you to look at. You also can come down here and see where you currently stand as far as XP earned for the week out of all your clan members. As you can see here, I have fallen behind into fourth. Let's just be honest with you guys, with some of my clan members, I haven't seen the first place spot in a long time. These guys are XP savages. But over here, as long as your clan earns the gold distinction of the week, you will be able to, once a week, I believe on Thursdays, pick up a gold cache. If you happen to earn the top distinction of your clan, you will be able to pick up 2 gold caches. And these gold caches usually have 4 or 5 items in them, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. It's always a gamble when you're opening a cache in this game. You never know what you're going to get. I've gotten some god rolled stuff out of it though before. But I will say this, it is hit and miss and far between on getting really, really good stuff. But that is the clan area in a nutshell. Just a secondary thought, you have a recalibration and crafting table both, and a cache as well outside, so you don't always have to use the one inside the White House. There is one out here too for both of those, or all three of those I should say, just as an FYI. Next we're going to talk about, I believe, Countdown. So Countdown is by far the easiest way to grind gear. If you're going to put builds together, you need to grind gear, especially if you can run in a group of people that are going to be able to drop you gear as well. The Countdown is the way to do it. You would go to your map, bumper over to matchmake, and then pick whatever level of difficulty you would want to join in on, and you can join in on 8-person Countdown. And that is how I would recommend running gear. Now, there is also Summit, but Summit is slow, Summit is painful. Countdown is much better as far as gear goes. Now, once you complete countdowns and fully extract, you earn countdown points. And those countdown points can be brought over to this table, which is the countdown vendor, and you can use them to buy everything up to exotic caches, as you just seen me do right here. What did I get? Another backfire. I got plenty of those. But I need the exotic components for my expertise. So, hey, not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. That will get broke down and used to upgrade something. Next thing is going to be the season vendor. Now, whatever season is active currently, you can opt to make sure that you have that particular season event activated. Here is the actual Lucky League. This is where the time trials are. You can run those whenever there's a league active. They give you added XP as well as a reward cache progression that you're able to claim caches all the way up to exotic caches, named caches. As you can see here, I have claimed quite a few. I've only got 2 left to get to complete that particular progression for that week. And it's usually a backpack trophy that's at the end of it, just as an FYI. But doing the time trials and doing the different challenges for that is how you get those points. And then you have the season challenge, which is currently the winter celebration. And they'll have 4 different days full of challenges for you to do, and each one of those challenges gives you a certain amount of stars, as well as every time you level up a shade level, you will get 1 star as well, as long as that season is activated in the system. And this nice little vendor that I am standing in front of here, oh, I'm sorry, and there is a reward track the same as the league. So as you collect stars, you will also unlock caches to be able to be claimed in that rewards track all the way up to a backpack trophy. Same thing. But as you collect stars in that season, you will bring your butt over to the season vendor here, and that is where you will be able to spend your stars. And right now I have 16 stars left to spend. Not quite enough for an exotic, but I'll always take a couple named caches. And by the way, folks, if you're not a PvP player, but you want to get those PvP exclusive, those Dark Zone and Countdown exclusive weapons, they do drop in named caches. So once you have your exotics pretty set and you want to try to get some of those gear but don't want to run the PvP content, well, hey, there you go, right there, the Virginian. Pretty sure that's a PvP exclusive. You are able to get those dropped through named caches, so I highly recommend that you give those named caches a try whenever you have an opportunity to pick up some of that special gear that you could only get in certain areas of the game. Perfect boomerang. I had a Virginian once, and I think I accidentally destroyed it. The stupid things I do in this game. Well, got another one now. Alrighty. Moving on up. Well, that is pretty much the seasons, the countdown. One last thing, and I'm not going to get too heavy into this, and if folks, if you want to, well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about specializations. So as you have a specialization activated on one of your builds, you're going to gain specialization points for the tree. As you can see, this is one of my 3rd characters that I just ran through New York not long ago. So the 3 add-on specializations, which are Firewall, Technician, and Gunner, you have to earn those points all over again every time you start a new character. Now, demolitionist, survivalist, and sharpshooter all should be maxed out once you let the level 40. You shouldn't have to get those points again. You can spend them how you want them. But unfortunately, the 3 add-ons, you will have to level up again. So having those active is how you get those tree points in order to max out your tree. Now, as you can see here, I got the pistol highlighted. If you want to get those pistols, that's great. If you start extra characters, do not, when you get down to having nothing left but to spend points on that pistol, don't buy the pistol again, because you will just considerably fill up your inventory with pistols that you cannot deconstruct. So you're taking up needed slots in your inventory. So once you've bought those pistols on your first character, never buy those pistols again if you decide to start other characters, because all you're doing is wasting inventory slots that you need. But specializations, that's it in a nutshell. They are dependent on what builds you are running, so make sure that you're looking at the little perks that you get for having those active on your builds. Now, shooting range. Whenever you're going to test your builds out, always put it on heroic. That way you are shy of legendary, obviously. You are putting your build up against the toughest enemies in the open world. That way you know how you're going to fare. If you look up at the top and you tag one of those numbers, that is the yards. So 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, and 20 yards. You can set to where the target drops at that particular range every time. You can also change your difficulty. You can go from veteran to elite to name to invulnerable if you want. But this is how you're going to test your DPS, your damage, your area of effect damage, your sniper ability, everything down here when you're putting builds together. You can also test your armor regen and your armor on kill by damaging yourself. And you can also turn the skill haste enable off and on. So in the shooting range, your skills will come back faster, just so that you can test them. You can turn that off to where they come back at a normal speed, like if you were in the open world. That little peek I gave you there is the wall where your exotic weapons are housed. You'll have one of those in New York as well. It's in the basement. Just a FYI. And the last thing that we're going to talk about, and this is what I started to say earlier, was, and this is build construction and theory of process behind build construction. When you're putting builds together, folks, look at what the talent is, look at what your attributes are, and then look at what the bonuses are for having multiple pieces of that gear set. So as you can see here with Empress, if I have 3 pieces, I get skill health 10%, skill damage 10%, and skill efficiency 10%. And then kinetic momentum also ties in with my skill damage. And it's the same thing with my backpack, which is also Empress. That tech support is also adding skill damage to my skill build. So your talents on your backpack, your talents on your chest pieces, your talents on your weapons in sync, both adding damage to my weapon and damage to my skills. And the same thing with the capacitor with its capacitance talents. So when you're structuring builds, just make sure that you're having everything flowing cohesively together, or there is a method to your madness. Don't just randomly pick stuff. We see that a lot, especially with green gear sets. You know, once you have 4 pieces, you don't need any more of those pieces. That's the max that you can have to get anything out of it. So people running 5 and 6 green pieces, you are wasting slots. But if you guys would like us to go more in depth on theory of builds and stuff like that, please drop us a comment below, and we would be happy to go over some of that with you in a more detailed fashion. Or by all means, if you're in game and you're looking for a new clan, feel free to drop us a line. We'd love to have you on as a member, and we've got plenty of people that are experienced in this stuff to be able to show you how to do it. But as always, please like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications on future videos. We do appreciate you guys stopping by. We hope you enjoyed the video. We hope you guys are doing great, having a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next one.